After a 40-win season and second-round play-in exit, expectations for 2024 were pretty high in OKC. You're adding Chet Holmgren, getting another season of development from Shai, who just made the All-NBA first team, J-Dubs heading into year 2, just lots of things to be excited for. But if I told you that they'd arguably be the best team in the league before the All-Star break, would you believe me? Because that's exactly what we're looking at. A team that's been elite on both sides of the ball and performing against the best competition. Which begs the question, just what's made them so good, and can they sustain it come playoff time? Any discussion about the Thunder has to start with Shai. There's nobody better at driving the basketball, just applying constant pressure to the paint at all times, where he's not just a threat to finish, but is also a masterful foul drawer. I don't think you can make a defender in a lab that would be able to stop Shai from beating him off the dribble. And when help comes, he's good at reading it, so he'll hit the open man for some easy offense. And in the rare event that he does get cut off, or the paint is packed, he can fall back on an S-tier mid-range game, with the space creation and shot making needed to absolutely torch any defense. In addition to his perimeter attack, he can also operate out of the post. He'll especially use this back to the basket game as a way to attack mismatches, where he can fade over either shoulder, has incredible footwork and perfect use of up fakes, so again, just so many different options. When it comes together, you've got arguably the best one-on-one player in the NBA, currently scoring about 8 points per game on an absurd 1.23 points per possession on either isolations or post-ups. And this ISO game is pretty much the building block for OKC's entire offense. When you have a guy who's that good at creating his own shot, is so efficient inside the arc, but can also make plays for others without turning the ball over, as long as you surround him with guys who fit, both your floor and ceiling are through the roof. There's been an especially strong synergistic effect with Chet Holmgren, primarily due to his ability to space the floor. You can see that value on a play like this, where Shai's drive pulls Rudy Gobert away from the top of the key. Having a 7-footer who can consistently knock down that shot makes things way harder on the opponent. It's not just the outside shooting though, he can finish plays in so many different ways. Here's another Shai drive that draws help, but this time Chet's in the dunker spot and finishes a lob. He moves really well for his size, so when spotting up on the perimeter, you also have to worry about him as a cutter. Shai draws 2 in the post and hits him where his length allows him to easily finish over help. In addition to all of that, he's also comfortable putting the ball down on drives. This one again starts with Shai drawing extra attention in the post, and when he moves it to Chet, there's a lane to attack, getting all the way to the rim for a finger roll. There are so many different ways to weaponize a skill set like this. One thing you'll see them do quite a bit is run him off of flare screens in early offense. If nobody jumps out to him, he's stepping into one of those automatic jumpers. But as soon as a big comes out to close that space, he's attacking the closeout and showcasing some more of that incredible interior finishing. Where he makes his presence most felt though is in the 2-man game with Shai. Shai's never really had a true scoring threat to run pick and roll with, and Chet's about as multifaceted of a screener you can think of. As a roller, he's quick to get downhill, and because Shai's so good at pressuring the defense, he gets quite a few freebies. And in the event that Shai draws a more aggressive coverage, like a blitz, he's someone who can consistently catch and finish through traffic. Of course, what defenses have to worry about most though, is the pop. He's shooting 40% from 3 off the catch, and that's good enough to stress the defense, which then makes things easier for Shai. The Hawks again put 2 on the ball, but Capella doesn't want to leave Chet open, so he attempts to recover, which then leaves Shai with a lane to attack downhill, as he gets to a floater. Pretty much the principle of OKC's scheme is answering the question, how can we make things as easy for Shai as we possibly can? The 2-man game with Chet does exactly that, but another thing you'll see is that they really like to use their smaller players as the screener. That way he can turn the corner and attack a mismatch, just in case his one-on-one game wasn't hard enough to guard. These actions can also be used as a way to create advantages. He uses the screen to get the Sadiq-based switch, but Jalen Johnson's a touch late to react, so he's shoveling it into the rolling Wiggins. And when it's a shooter like Isaiah Joe, you'll often see them slip the screen, where that quick 2-on-1 is all it takes to get 3 more points on the board. Everything I've talked about up to this point works together. You've got Joe slipping a screen, which forces Wiggins to switch, leaving Shai with a mismatch to attack. He of course beats him off the dribble, draws help down low, and leaves it for who else but Chet diving in from the corner. Or how about this one that starts with Shai getting blitzed, hitting Chet in the middle, who makes the right read on a short roll kick out to Jalen Williams. From there, J-Dub can either shoot or attack the closeout, and decides to lob it right back to the big man. I guess now's a pretty good time to focus on J-Dub, who's been looking like an all-star this season. Of course, with Shai dominating the rock, most of his time is spent off ball, and he's a serious threat. For one, the guy's shooting 45% from 3, so good luck leaving him open to help in the paint. But the main thing is his slashing. He's extremely good at getting into the defense on drives, especially off the catch, even when there isn't a big advantage or aggressive closeout to attack. And it's not just his athletic finishing that you have to worry about, but also his passing. He'll pressure the rim and continue to create for others in a similar manner to Shai. What stands out about all of this though is how efficient he is. You won't ever see him waste a possession by taking a bad shot or making a poor decision. Everything he does is intentional, and it makes him a perfect number 2 next to a volume scorer. He's more than fine taking 10 to 13 shots a game, and he'll make more than half of them, won't turn the ball over, while still offering some much needed secondary creation. All those ways in which I said SGA can set up their offense, J-Dub can do as well. You've got the one-on-one game. He's big, athletic, and skilled from all 3 levels. That's helped him to 1.09 points per isolation, up there among the more efficient in the NBA. There's also the 2-man game with Chet. Like I said, he can pressure the defense and pass, so those actions still commonly lead to the same set of scoring options. And then of course the ball screens from guards and wings. He's a big time mismatch for smaller defenders, so getting him those switches is a way to generate some high efficiency offense. The big 3 of Shai, J-Dub, and Chet is the key. All 3 are supremely skilled, play off of each other perfectly, and allow all sorts of flexible lineup choices. You'll typically see Lou Dort in there with them, more for defense, which we'll get to, but on offense, he's having by far the best outside shooting season of his career at 39%. And although he's not much of a creator at all, will occasionally put it on the deck when he sees a lane to attack. Rounding out the starting 5 is Josh Giddey. Now, in one of my most recent videos, I talked about how Minnesota caused a ton of problems for their offense by just simply ignoring Giddey as a scoring threat altogether. He's not just a below average outside shooter, but a below average finisher, a below average athlete, doesn't know how to use his body to create contact or get to the line. Basically what I'm saying is that he doesn't really apply pressure on the defense. With that said, I do think he has some valuable skills. For one, he's the squad's best passer by a landslide, meaning that when they want to set up some action, he'll make the right reads. He's especially good on sidelines out of bounds plays. They get some free buckets just off of the sheer precision of his deliveries, but his game sometimes feels like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. You don't want him taking on-ball possessions away from Shai and J-Dub, but off-ball he'll probably be played off the floor come playoff time, so you've got some tough questions to answer there. To get more shooting on the floor next to their stars, they'll replace Giddey in the lineup with Isaiah Joe, by far their best threat from outside. He's shooting just under 45% from 3 off the catch this season, just incredible, and he's one of those guys who really makes defenses second guess how they approach Shai. Double him early, and one pass away, you're basically giving up a layup from the perimeter. Pick your poison. The 5 of Shai, Joe, Dort, J-Dub, and Chet has actually been by far OKC's best lineup this season, and the one they usually close with, outscoring opponents by 38 points every 100 possessions with an incredible offensive rating of 138.4. Another guy they can go to for some more shooting is rookie Cason Wallace. He too is shooting nearly 44% from 3 off the catch, not with the same level of difficulty and versatility as Joe, but still capitalizing on the opportunities he's given. With that, he can also do some really nice things off the catch, showing a little in-between game, finishing at the rim at a high level, moving the ball well, just another solid piece to put next to a star creator. In very limited minutes, you'll also find a guy like Aaron Wiggins. Every single time I watch this team, I'm shocked by how little he plays. An athletic, lengthy wing who can do pretty much anything on the court, but gets passed up routinely. Or you've got Kenrich Williams, shooting good from 3, but not a huge threat from out there, a capable slasher, really good extra passer, and I think by this point you have to be picking up on a theme. The key to everything they do is simple: skill on the court. It sounds obvious, but I'm serious. They aren't doing anything crazy with their scheme. There's no motion offense. They aren't using their big as the initiator like Denver or Sacramento. They aren't throwing 7 pin downs and 6 flare screens like Utah. They've got their elite one-on-one guy. They've surrounded him with like 8 players who can all make plays, some of which are making threes at a near league best rate, and that recipe has helped them to the second best half-court offense in the NBA, scoring 1.1 points per possession. I only really have 2 big concerns with this offense come playoff time. One is the sustainability of some of their 3-point shooters. Right now they're 3rd in the NBA at 39% from 3, so it's a pretty big part of their effectiveness. But can guys like Dort or Kenrich shoot almost 40% from 3 consistently, or is it still a sample size thing? Joe can be inconsistent at times. Will he go cold at the wrong time? And the second concern I have is everything I talked about with Giddey. Can he play big minutes, or any, in the playoffs, especially against teams like Minnesota? I do have my concerns, but still, there's no denying how high-powered this offense is, and Shai has shown time and time again to be virtually immune to top defenses, so I think there's still a very good floor. With all of that said, I'd actually say what makes me so high on OKC is their defense, and how I expect that to hold up come playoff time. The name of the game is simple: size, length, and athleticism. Just think about the players I listed on offense. Shai's the point guard. He's 6'6" with a 6'11" wingspan and has arguably the best hands in the NBA. Next to him is Dort, a bit shorter at 6'4", but ridiculously strong with a 6'8" wingspan. Then you've got J-Dub, 6'5", with a stupid 7'2" wingspan. Giddey, 6'8". Chet, a lengthy 7'1". The list goes on and on. Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, Kenrich Williams, all athletes with long arms. When you have those guys on the floor together, all of a sudden the floor shrinks. Passes that should be available aren't anymore, leading the league in deflections at over 16 a game. Driving lanes that look open are getting reached into and poked out, and the result is a team that forces an absurd amount of turnovers. They currently lead the league at 16 forced turnovers every 100 possessions, and also lead in points off of turnovers, so that's an example of defense directly impacting the offense. Size, length, and athleticism also means that they always have someone rotating down to the rim. Shai, their point guard, is one of the best shot blocking wings in the NBA. Same thing from J-Dub, another guy who can rotate down. And they also happen to have Chet, who from day one was already one of the best rim protectors in the sport. Again, when that comes together, you've got a team holding their opponents to just 61% shooting at the rim, also first in the NBA. So you've got a team that's been the best rim defense and forces more turnovers than anyone. Sound good to you? Because it sure does to me. But another big thing is the fact that they have a bunch of guys who can execute different roles. Firstly, you have options at the point of attack. Dort's their go-to guy, pretty much always matched up with the opposing team's best player, and like I said, he's really strong. So if you need him to switch 1 through 4, he'll do it. He's an absolute menace on the ball, phasing through screens, and when screeners try to set it harder, well, he's probably drawing an offensive foul. If you do somehow get him with a good screen to get the switch onto someone else, who are you attacking? J-Dub? Shai? I guess you could say Giddey, but again he's got the size of a power forward with multiple capable rim protectors behind him. When Dort's not out there, they can go to Cason Wallace or Kenrich Williams at the point of attack, two more great on-ball guys who, if switched off, will continue to affect the offense by sitting in lanes. And while all of that's going down, you've got Chet in the middle. He's more of a traditional drop big in the sense that he wants to protect the paint, but definitely isn't stuck to that coverage. You want him hedging, trapping, switching? He's a fluid enough athlete to make those things happen. The makings of an elite playoff defense are there. Multiple on-ball options with very little weak links, if any, to attack. Tons of length and athleticism, forcing everyone on the offense to make tough decisions and operate in traffic. Multiple rim protectors, always someone to rotate down to the basket, and it's all built around one of the game's biggest interior presences. There are really only two other things I want to quickly mention. I talked about how their defense often leads to easy offense. Well, that isn't just off of turnovers, it could be after rebounds too. They're leading the league at 27 points a game in transition, led by Shai, who's first among all players at almost 8. Next to Shai, they have multiple transition weapons like Chet, J-Dub, and Giddey. We're talking about a legit force in the open floor. But there's also the fact that offense can lead to easier defense. With the way they typically set up the floor, Chet spends most of his time at the top of the key. That means when a shot goes up, he's the first to drop back, so they always have their best rim protector in position. With that, they also don't really crash the offensive glass much at all, placing more of an emphasis on limiting transition opportunities. Thanks to Thinking Basketball's website, we actually have numbers that track this type of thing, and the Thunder allowed just 1.11 points per possession after being stopped on offense, which is the best in the NBA. As for their overall defense, allowing about 113 points every 100 possessions, 4th in the league. You throw a top 4 defense in with a top 5 offense, and that's where you start to see results. Here's a look at the offensive and defensive rating of every team in the league as of February 1st. Boston's the standard, but OKC isn't too far behind at a plus 7.7 net rating, and Philly's the only other team that's been truly elite on both ends of the floor. After all, there's a reason the Thunder are as good as they are. Shai's an MVP candidate, Chet's a Rookie of the Year candidate, J-Dub's an All-Star candidate, Mark Daigneault's a Coach of the Year candidate, and they have great role players on both ends of the floor. How does that hold up in the playoffs? Only time will tell, but this team is the real deal. So if you haven't bought stock, make sure you do it now. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of the Thunder. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.